and he's starting a UK tour, meeting audiences for an evening of chat and anecdote. I caught up with Sir Roger, not shaken, certainly not stirred, to talk girls and gadgets and growing old and seeing friends on the other side. Sir Roger.
Oh, Roger.
Just Roger. Not
you.
Sir. Lovely to see
So
you.
nice to see you. Thank you.
Oh, I know you're about to start a live tour, and it's called An Evening with Roger Moore.
Mm-hmm.
So what could I expect of an evening with Roger Moore?
2 hours good sleep. I say we should put on the billing, throw away your still knocks. Not off here. What to expect? I talk about everything in my life. And after 86 years, there seems to be a lot of things to talk about, if I can remember them.
What sort of questions do people ask?
What's your favourite Bond girl?
Oh, I'll scrub that one off then.
And
what do you say?
Children I make up all sorts of things. Children or young people always say, what's your favourite gadget?
So, Barbara Bach is your favourite?
Yes, Barbara Bach.
Okay.
The lady will have a Bacardi on the rocks.
For the gentleman, vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
Touche.
The watch, one of the watches, as your favourite gadget? What has it been?
Yes, the magnetic watch.
A magnetic watch. You brought to your Bond generosity of spirit and a humour and, of course, very debonair. But it was very different from Sean Connery's Bond.
Take a little.
Well, Sean, as is Daniel Craig today, looks like a killer. I squeeze them to death in my eyes.
How do you squeeze somebody to death with your eyes?
Not so hard, please.
Raising one eyebrow, perhaps. You can still do that.
Well, do you think that gravity's taken over completely?
I thought that your Bond, well, I suppose the template was Simon Templar and the Saint, wasn't it? A little bit, only without the guns and the weapons. You know, very suave, using your fists a bit if you needed to fight.
Well, it's exactly the same as I played Ivanhoe 400 years before.
So you're saying you've played the same, played it the same way for all of them?
They all come out the same.
Do they?
Yeah. It's the easiest way. You don't do all that acting business.
You're so self-deprecating about your acting.
Well, I've seen myself.
Why?
Well, in a couple of things I've been allowed to act, but usually it's because I look sort of heroic, which I suppose I am not.
Was that a bit frustrating?
Well, I suppose that was acting, actually, to look heroic, not to sort of blink too much. I know Barbara Bach, when we were doing Spy Who Loved Me, and one of those beautiful sets that Ken Adams constructed, which the minute you see a beautiful set, you know it's going to get blown up in a Bond film. And before all the explosions started, my makeup man came to me and he said, "Here you are, Roger," and he gave me the box, and I put my earplugs in. And Barbara said, "What are you doing that for?" I said, "Because we're going to have a lot of explosions." I said, "Now when I move at the same time, we have to really move." She said, "Well, I thought if I stood near you, I'd be safe." I said, "No, it's James Bond they're trying to kill." So when I run with me. And I was heroic there. She nearly drowned, and I dragged her out. It was worth it. Ringo Starr's very grateful.
So as well as your anecdotes about Bond, which you'll be regaling the audience with when you go on tour, you've written another book. It's called Last Man Standing.
I just happen to have a copy of the book handy.
As you do.
And if you see, we're all sitting in
Gregory
the wrong
Peck,
chairs.
Trevor Howard, David Niven.
And I'm actually the last man sitting, not standing. But they all unfortunately are dead. And I talk about them.
It must be so difficult when you're so close to people like David Niven, and such good friends, not to have them around anymore.
Well, David was the first of my friends that really affected me at the death. And, he had motor neuron disease. He was in the high street of Start, and a man said, David, how are you? And David said, all right, I've got motor neuron disease. And so it's, oh yes, I got a new Mercedes. And David started to laugh. And he laughed, and when he laughed, laughter was very close to tears, and yeah, I miss him.
In the book, where you talk about David Niven and Trevor Howard and Gregory Peck, you say that you think that they're looking down on you from heaven. Do you have a religious faith at all?
Well, yes. I was asked by a dialogue director once in California, do you believe in God? I said, yes, I believe in intelligence. I believe that we are created for some purpose. And I think that the purpose probably is to learn, to experience, and to use that. So, well, fine, but some of us are born a little more fortunate than others because of circumstance of birth, of geography. Yes. He said, you're very fortunate. He said, you're 6 foot. So why do you only stand 5'10"? Stand 6'2".
What does he mean by that?
He said that you've been given this and it's wrong not to do it. Do something with it.
You've been through diabetes, you were diagnosed with diabetes, pneumonia?
Double pneumonia.
Double pneumonia?
I've had that twice.
Have you?
Oh, I'm an old hand at it.
Pacemaker fitted?
Yeah.
What gets you through those periods of illness? I mean, you mentioned that you do have a belief in something, in some God. Is that, does that help when you become ill? Or
well, I don't think I'm frightened. I think it's going to be a big adventure. You're going to find out. Nobody's ever come back to tell us.
Your mother taught you to be humble and have some humility and to look at where you were born and that others hadn't got the same. And I suppose you took that philosophy into your UNICEF work, didn't you?
Well, I was very fortunate enough that Audrey Hepburn was a friend and virtually a neighbour. And she called me one morning and asked me if I would go to Amsterdam with her to co-host the Danny Kaye International Children's Awards, which was a UNICEF program. She was an extraordinarily warm, passionate lady. That's one of the things that I might see her on the other side.
And what do you think you've learnt in 86 years? Have you got life lessons?
I've learnt that it's better to smile in adversity. Learnt to appreciate all my mother's maxims, that I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. So
your motto is embrace every moment,
yeah,
presumably. You seem to be.
Live today and don't tread on too many toes.
Live every day and don't try and tread on too many toes.
Yeah, and every day may be your last.
But not today.
Not today.
Sir Roger Moore, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
The delightful Roger Moore on living life and losing friends. Just after we recorded that interview, he lost another close colleague, Richard Keel, who was Jaws in 2 Bond films. Roger said he was totally distraught. Keel played villains in Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, to a growing issue for all of us. What happens if someone calls you fat or tells you you're carrying